Hi, everybody. Today we are talking about doing a caregiver self-inventory. Are you a caregiver who is not quite sure if you are doing too much or too little? Do aging parents, your spouse, or another family member have really high expectations for the amount of time and the effort and maybe even the money that you contribute to a caregiving situation, and their expectations don't match your expectations or your beliefs of what you can really do? If so, maybe it's time to take a caregiver self-inventory to see if you are helping or harming the situation through your actions. Because honestly, there are times when doing too much, when thinking that you have to give up parts of your life and believing that you really don't have a choice. It can take you so far off track of fulfilling your life's potential and what you want to do. So in this video, we're going to look at 9 motivators or detractors, pros, cons, and look at both perspectives of caregivers who feel like they have to totally give up their lives and they don't have a choice, to caregivers on the other side who really do question, how much should I be doing? And these 9 questions that I'm about to ask you can apply to any area of your life, whether you are a caregiver, you have a career, you are a mother or father raising children, you're a volunteer. These apply to all areas of life. So please do this. Share your comments below. Let me know where you are with these 9 questions, because by following and sharing this channel and by commenting, you help other people find their way here to get hope, help, and support, whether they are the caregiver or the person who needs care. So if you haven't met me before, if you are new to this channel, I'm Pamela D. Wilson. I am a caregiver expert, advocate, and educator. I have worked professionally in this field of aging and caregiving for more than 20 years. More information about me is on my website, pameladwilson.com. I'll also put some links below to my podcast, an online program that I offer, and my caregiver support group on Facebook. It's called the Caregiving Trap. I invite you to join. So, number 1 is approval. Approval can relate to the idea of pleasing others or wanting everybody else to be happy and wanting everybody else to get along and life just to run so smoothly, which if you're a caregiver or anybody, right? You know, this is not always realistic. But the question is, do you measure your value or your worth or your happiness by responses that you get from other people or praise that you get from other people? And do you do things to motivate others to thank you? So it's kind of like you give something, but you expect something in return. Do you think, well, if I'm a good person, if I do all this stuff, if I, climb tall buildings and flip mattresses and clean my parents' home and do their groceries and cook and, give up my job and my personal life, mom or dad are going to appreciate me, and I really need and I really want their appreciation. So in a sense, are you seeking a return on investment from your actions or from your behaviors? If so, you may need approval. Or on the opposite end, do you realize that you are unique? There's only one of you, and you're an amazing person with talents and gifts. And because of this, you're willing to share those talents and gifts with other people. No strings attached, no expectations. When you have time, and we'll get to the time factor in a minute, but when you have time, you do things for other people just because you can. You do good because you can. You give to other people because you can. You give back to your local community because you can. Maybe you mentor people at work. Maybe you help people through community organizations that you belong to. And if you're that caregiver, maybe you give selflessly and don't expect mom or dad or a spouse to say thank you. You don't really need their appreciation because you know you're doing a good job. Number two, as a caregiver, do you self-neglect your needs? Do you put yourself at the bottom of the pile? Everybody else gets served first. You get served last if there's anything left. Are you neglecting your physical, your emotional, your social, your financial, or your spiritual needs? Do you feel like there's never any time for you? Or do you feel guilty if you're not constantly running around and doing something for someone? Do you feel guilty if you make time for yourself? Do you constantly feel like you have this long to-do list and it never gets done and you're running around in this frenzy and all the while you feel stressed out by all the things you have to do? It's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to keep up. And more things keep getting added to the list, even though they may not be important. Or on the other hand, do you recognize the effects of all these caregiver tasks or the effects of work stress or other stresses on your physical body? Are you gaining weight? Are you out of shape? Is your mind stressed all the time? Is it constantly going from here to there to there and you can't focus on anything and you feel distracted and you can't remember things and you're just so overly stressed out? If so, you're probably self-neglecting your needs. Do you plan daily time into your schedule? This would be a good thing to rejuvenate your mind and your body, even if it's a 10-minute walk outside or meditation. Do you clear out all those cobwebs in your head so that you're very clear thinking and you can plan and you can think rationally instead of emotionally about what has to be done? If you're that caregiver, do you realize that by taking care of yourself, you're more balanced emotionally, you feel better, you are more patient and loving, and you can better care for the other people in your life? Because if you don't do this, if self-neglect is your way that you operate day in and day out, eventually you're going to get sick. You're going to have health issues. And not only are you going to be unable to take care of this person that you love, you're not going to be able to take care of yourself. And you are going to turn into the person who needs care. Think about that. Number three, guilt. Are you motivated by guilt? Do you say yes? Do you agree to take on more work to make up for something that you feel like, oh, I wasn't nice to them the other day, or I was impatient, so I have to do this. I've got to make up for that bad thing that I did when I was having a bad day. Well, we all have bad days. Do you feel that you're less skilled or not as good as other people? So you constantly have to find ways to excel or exceed or do better or do more so that you can make yourself feel good and make yourself feel valuable? Or are you motivated by having the abilities to do good things and your love for other people and your love for what you're doing? Are you passionate about what you're doing? Whether you're a caregiver or passionate in your job or passionate about raising your kids, I mean, whatever it is, are you passionate about this thing so much that you really don't need to feel guilty about what you're doing because you're giving it everything you have and you know that you're giving it everything you have? If you're a caregiver, sometimes you can do too much for other people. You can actually take away their opportunities to gain confidence and have self-esteem about their abilities. So this guilt thing goes both ways. Caregivers can feel guilty that they're not doing enough, yet you can take opportunities away from other people to build on their successes. So just because you love someone, it doesn't always mean that you have to say yes. Sometimes it can mean saying, no, I can't do that. I want you to have the experience of learning how to do this, or gaining confidence in your ability to do this, or learning something new so that everybody involved gets to learn from their choices and the consequences of our action, because that's really how we learn, right? That's how we improve our skills. That's how we advance in life, is by trying and doing and experiencing. Number four is recognition. So in any area of your life, Do you feel like you are indispensable? Like nobody else can do it as good as I can? Or if I let them do it, it's not going to turn out the way that I want? Do you seek recognition and attention for your efforts? Do you want somebody to say, oh, you are so hardworking. You do so much. We couldn't live without you. Truly, do you want other people not to be independent? Do you want to make people more dependent on you? And if you're that caregiver, do you constantly feel like you have to tell people, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. I have so much to do. I have such a long to-do list. I'm just struggling to keep up. Is that good? Or are you happy and secure in the amount of work that you do and you're content contributing and supporting other people and you find value in your work? And while, yeah, it's nice to get a thank you every now and then, and it's very lovely to be appreciated, right? You don't need to hear that every day. And maybe you don't even need to hear it every week. You are okay because you know that what you're doing is making a difference, or what you're doing is moving a project forward, or that you're helping somebody, or that your parent feels healthier today, or that you had a really good doctor appointment and things are going well. There's this sense of accomplishment that we get, which leads to number 5, which is responsibility and duty. So a lot of caregivers will say, Pamela, I got no choice. There's nobody else in my family who's going to do this. I have to be the one. Or maybe you are the only one in your family. Maybe you're the only child, or maybe you are a married couple and you never had children and you're that spouse who thinks, oh, I have to do it all. Well, there's pros and cons to this, pluses and minuses, motivators and detractors, being helpful and then being too helpful. So ask yourself these questions. Do you complain that nobody else is helping you, yet you really don't want anybody else to help? And you're not like looking for help. You're not asking for people to help you. You just want to complain that nobody's helping. And along those lines, do you take on more than you can possibly do? Do you overschedule your calendar so much that you look at it and you think, oh my gosh, today I've got 10 things to do. I'll be lucky if I get to 2 of them. If you do that, why do you do that? Why do you overschedule yourself? There's a point where being practical and making a schedule and looking at your schedule and saying, you know what? I'm overscheduled here. I got to move this to the next day. And maybe I need to leave some of these things out because they're not as important. It's learning how to create that balance in your life so you're constantly not feeling like you are overscheduled and you can't keep up and you're constantly apologizing to other people because you made this commitment and you're not coming through on it. You can't meet the deadline. And all that does is make you feel worse about what you're doing, or worse about trying to help, which is not really the way anybody wants to feel. Or do you balance your time? Look at your abilities. Only say yes to the things that you know that you can accomplish. Or if you say yes, and there's this gap, skill gap, knowledge gap, whatever, do you then go seek the knowledge or figure out how to get the skill so that you can close that gap so that you stay within the zone of, I have responsibilities, I have duties, and I am doing a fabulous job with all of this. And you feel good about it. The next one is feeling that you have to sacrifice or give up everything in your life or put everything on hold or be a martyr. So if you're that caregiver, again, do you have these thoughts of being angry and resentful in your mind because, gosh, nobody else realizes what I'm doing. They don't realize how hard I work, not getting any recognition here. And you're comparing your life to the lives of other people, which you should never do because what you see on the surface may not be anything that's happening underneath, right? Somebody may look totally calm and cool and collected on the surface, and their life may be a mess underneath, but they have learned how to manage that. So in caregiving, it's common to be resentful of other people because you feel like you've given up something to do what you're doing, and other people are going on vacation and they have wonderful jobs and they have children and they're living their lives, right? But if you feel like you have to constantly tell other people, what you're doing because you want them to say thank you or help you out, then your life really maybe has become off balanced, right? It's it's gone too far in the other direction. And when you think about sacrifices and the things that you give up, why would you expect somebody who did not create the problem, who didn't give up all that you did, to solve your problem? Only you can solve your problem. And a lot of people will say, well, this is just what God wants me to do. Well, maybe for a period of time, right? There's trade-offs, pluses and minuses, give and take. But does God really want you to be overworked? Does God want you to feel resentful and angry? I think God wants us to feel possible and live abundantly happy lives. So until you have this recognition that, gosh, sacrifice has to have some balance, there's got to be some give and take there, you may not be able to change your situation. Or on the other side of being sacrificing things or being a martyr, right? Instead, do you choose to go through the day feeling good about what you do and what you contribute? And you don't worry about what anybody else is doing, if they're doing more work than you, if they're doing less, if you're not noticing, like if your coworker came in late, right? Or if you're working through lunch and they're going out to lunch with colleagues, or you're doing other stuff. You're not comparing your life to other people's lives because you don't feel like you are missing out or you're sacrificing things, because you are being very intentional about your goals and your to-do list and what you want out of life. And if other people are achieving, you are happy for them. You're thrilled to hear that somebody went and they had a great vacation or they had a good weekend. Why not be happy for yourself and in turn be happy for other people? By realizing that your mind has a lot of control over how you feel and what you do, you can go a lot further in your life and live a fulfilling life, even if you are that caregiver, because you're making the right choices. Number 7, let's talk about expectations. Expectations of you from other people from you, what you expect of yourself, right? So in families, in cultures, in relationships, there are expectations, right? But there's also something called expectation setting. So our behaviors and the way that we act voluntarily establish the way and the things that other people look at us and what they expect from us. So in a sense, our behaviors can train other people to have expectations. So if you rush every time your mom or dad calls you and they need something or a spouse needs you, they're going to be trained to understand that when they pick up the phone or when they call, you're going to come running immediately. So recognize that through your behaviors, through your actions, you set expectations with other people. Now, what we usually don't do is we don't have conversations about expectations and what's real. So if you're that caregiver who's overburdened, stressed out, you may feel like you have to do this alone and that nobody else can do it as well as you can, so you don't have a choice, or you don't ask for other people to help because their imperfections annoy you, right? They're not going to do it the way that I did it, so I can't ask them to do it. You don't want to impose on anybody to ask them to do it because, God forbid, they're just not going to do it the same way you would, and there's only one way to do it. Well, there's a lot of ways to do things. A lot of ways to do things is to ask for help and get it, right? That's a wonderful thing. And accept that everybody is really doing their best. I mean, your life experiences are so different from somebody else's, your education level, your skills, your abilities. We can't judge other people by what we're able to do or expect other people to even do what we do at the level at which we do it. If we excel, we excel. So part of this is appreciating and celebrating other people who are different, who live their lives differently, and not expecting everybody to fit into the same square box that we do. For God's sake, what a boring life that would be if everybody was like us, right? If everybody was perfect, if everybody did things like perfectly, right? That is just not a realistic expectation of life. What we expect sometimes happens, many times the unexpected happens, and we have to deal with it. So accept that everybody has different ways of doing things. You may have a common goal, right? You both may want the same thing, but let's say that you go down, 5 paths to get there and it takes somebody else 20 paths. As long as you still get there and the goal is achieved in the time that you agreed upon, what difference does it make? So begin managing your expectations of other people. Manage other people's expectations of you through your behaviors by having conversations. Life can run much more smoothly when expectations are equal and participation is equal, if that is possible. Number 8 in this list of caregiver self-assessments is to look at your self-esteem and how you feel about yourself and how that affects your daily life and things that you do. So on the not so good side, are you threatened by other people who seem to have an easy life or seem to achieve things or have more things than you do? Do you feel disadvantaged because you don't have everything that somebody else has? A work example, if somebody gets promoted, are you happy for them or are you jealous because you didn't get that job? Do you criticize other people to make yourself feel better? Did you realize that all of us, when we're critical of other people, we might be critical of things that we don't like in ourselves? And that's really something to think about. Go through a day and think of how many times you criticize other people, you don't like something. Why are you criticizing? Why don't you like that? If it didn't make any difference, you wouldn't need to criticize, right? So what is it that is missing or is imperfect that is so irritating that it really focuses your time and your attention on the negative? Wouldn't you rather be happy and go through life and have a great day? So look at the idea of accepting people as they are and accepting yourself as you are, recognizing that you are a good person and you do good things and you should feel good about everything that you do, because if you're a caregiver, honestly, you are doing a lot of work. So let's go to the self-assessment item number 9, which is control, right? We all feel better when we control our lives and we know what to expect, but heck, that is not realistic, especially if you're a caregiver taking care of somebody who has health issues. Basically, you're waiting for the unexpected to happen. You're worried about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? What am I going to have to do next? This is perfect, right? Well, that can set your mind off in a worrisome track, right? Where you're just perseverating and you're hypersensitive to things going wrong because you expect everything to go wrong. But then the other part of it is you might feel bad that your parents' health is getting worse. But you have to realize you didn't create your parents' health problems, just like you didn't create your parents' marital problems if they have them, or you didn't create your parents' financial problems. Your parents had that control over their lives, just like you have the same amount of control over your life today. And we're all responsible for our outcomes. So as a caregiver, if you feel responsible for, what happens to your parents, that's really not for you to take on, right? Your parents are living through the consequences of their lives, just as you're living through the consequences of your life. So my suggestion is not to become frustrated over what other people do or don't do because you have these expectations, right? We talked about that earlier. Because your frustrations might result in you feeling guilty and resentful, and then you don't feel good enough and you can't control the situation and life is just out of control. So realize that you can't control everything. You can control the way that you respond to situations. And all you can do is your best, and accept that your best right now with the skills that you have and the information that you have is the best that you can do. Because as we go through life, right, we have more experiences, we gain new information. Look at what you know today versus 6 months ago and a year ago, and how you might respond differently to a situation today versus 6 months or a year ago. You could be light years ahead in your experience and your education, which is a wonderful thing, right? So, so think about these 9 motivators or detractors, these 9 self-assessment questions, and apply them to your life as a caregiver or apply them to other areas in your life. Again, please, if you stayed with me to the end of this video, please comment below, share your opinions, share your thoughts, because by following my YouTube channel, by liking these videos, by commenting, you help other people seeking similar hope, help, and support in caregiving and managing health situations and family situations find the hope, help, and support that they're seeking. I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you all again soon in another video.